Let us discuss with the question: the globalization is an essential outcome of the liberalization of of an economy. We have to justify the statement with a valid explanation. Globalization is indeed an essential outcome of liberalization. The removal of or reduction of restriction in the industrial sector, financial sector, trade and investment policies opened the doors of the Indian economy to the rest of the world. So we can say that liberalization acted as a catalyst for globalization. It fostered the international trade, integrating the Indian economy with the global economy. We are going to discuss with the next question, that is, disinvestment is a compulsion for the government to tackle budgetary deficit. Is it true? No, it is false. Disinvestment is not a compulsion for the government to tackle budgetary deficit. The fact is that the government resorts to investment, that means selling the shares of the public enterprise to the private enterprise, only when the public enterprises are found to the breeding centers of inefficiency and corruption. Of course, once disinvestment is done, it helps the government to manage the budgetary deficit. Next question is that how does privatization lead to fiscal consolidation? Privatization implies transfer of ownership and management of the public sector enterprises to the private sector enterprises. It is a process involving disinvestment in the public sector enterprises. By and large, disinvestment is planned for such public sector enterprises which are inefficient and run into huge losses. Disinvestment leads to fiscal consolidation in two ways: losses of the public sector enterprises are plugged, and revenue of the government rises on account of the sale of shares of public enterprises. Next question is that Amazon has been an outsourcing to various customer support companies in India to accommodate more local and international buyers and sellers. In light of the above statement, how has the process of globalization impacted the Indian economy? Outsourcing from India by the foreign companies like Amazon impacted the Indian economy in the following ways. It generated opportunities employment in the domestic economy. It boosted the formalization of employment sector, bringing more and more workforce in the ambit of the social security benefits and regularizing the job. Owing to higher opportunities of employment, GDP growth has been accelerated. Next question is that should devaluation always lead to a rise in our export earnings because rupee value of the dollar increases? When rupee value of the dollar increases, purchasing power of the dollar in the Indian market rises. This prompts the foreign buyers to increase their purchases from the Indian markets. However, this need not necessarily lead to rise in our export earnings because while the quantity of the good sold rises, that means after devaluation, prices of the goods, that means in terms of the dollar, falls in the domestic market. Accordingly, market value of the goods, that means quantity of the good exported into the price of the good, may rise, remain constant, or even fall after devaluation. It will increase only if the percentage increase in the quantity of the goods exported happens to be greater than the percentage fall in the price of these goods. Next question is that write your views on the need for inclusive growth for our Indian economy. Is inclusive growth achievable for a developing economy like India when exposed to the process of privatization and globalization? Now, here goes the answer. Inclusive growth refers to the process of growth, the fruits of which are equitably shared by all sections of the society. It happens only when the rate of participation improves and the rate of unemployment is reduced. This is achievable only when the state assign a flagship role to the public sector enterprises as under 1956 Industrial Policy Resolution. Now, when the economic reforms are focusing on privatization and globalization, when the growth process is being increasingly exposed to the market forces of supply and demand, The concept of inclusive growth has become more like a political slogan rather than a sincerely pursued objective by the government. It is no longer seen to be an achievable objective.